In life, as is expected throughout our time on this depressed and slowly dying planet, we must get used to an array of disappointments. Cheating spouses, job rejections. For me, penis size tops the list. Even disappointments that have no real importance to the betterment of society, like why didn't Jared suck my butt the other day, or why is the moon not made of cheese? But one disappointment in life affects a great number of the population, and that is the cancellation of a beloved television show. There have been many shows in existence that were hung by the rafters way too soon in their lifespan. Freaks and Geeks and Love are a couple that are up there for me. But one show I want to dissect for a moment and really give it the love that it deserves is the underrated masterwork of a Canadian comedy show, Kenny vs. Spenny. Picture me this. The year is 2000. Little old me has finished a long day of finding myself. I take a break from RuneScape to find myself browsing the YouTubes. In its earlier stages of life, I'm scrolling through a cacophony of very important content. I come across a thumbnail that piques my interest.
"Hey, I like farts,"
he said to himself. And what I found changed my life forever.
I've developed a system to psych out Spenny.
It is called the FART, Flatulent Assisted Rectal Tubing. This is going to give me the biggest fart in the history of mankind. Slower, Spencer. Oh. Oh my God. Look, it works. It works.
Now, I know what you're thinking. What are you, 5? And to that I say, shut up, you butt licker. For the 7 people watching this video and those that are unfamiliar with Kenny vs. Spenny, let me explain it a little bit. Since the beginning of time, mankind has been forced to compete
for survival. This spirit of competition has reached a pinnacle in the relationship of two best friends who battle against each other. Why? Glory for the winner, humiliation for the loser. This is Kenny versus Spenny.
Still confused? Essentially, it's an early 2000s Canadian comedy show about 2 buddies facing off against each other in competitions. These competitions range from a variety of challenges. They decided to film structured competitions and introduce consequences for losing. Kenny and Spenny both have contrasting personalities, which affect the way they approach each competition. Spenny usually follows the rules and his ethics very strictly. He also tries to compete in what he perceives as the intention and spirit of each competition. Kenny's approach is typically more unorthodox and devious. He is often willing to use any means necessary, including cheating, to win. Whoever loses the competition must suffer humiliation chosen by the winner. The episodes are usually less focused on who wins, but how each one goes about winning. Let me completely break down the framework of a given episode to give you a little suckle and taste of how the show works. Here we go. The episode starts with the subject of the competition.
Who can stay homeless the longest? Whoever blows the biggest fart is the winner.
Who is the better cook?
The competition this week is the first person to laugh loses.
Kenny throws a jab at Spenny, and Spenny gets razzled.
Spencer was born out of the rectum of a pig when a drunken homeless guy raped a dead pig at the side of the road.
There's like 4 13-year-old kids who think that's funny.
There's nothing more important to Spenny than being me, being in love with me, wanting to emulate me, and become the son of God.
You are the last person on the planet that I want to be like.
They usually have a couple rules to deter cheating and workarounds, but for the most part, it's free range to do whatever they need to. Now, this is where the difference in personalities takes shape. Kenny usually decides to fuck around with Spenny, find ways around the rules, or completely neglect the task altogether.
See, my plan is to just basically play Spenny, but play a hammed-up version. Totally besmirch his character.
So this is how it's going to be? You're going to be like this for 3 days? You're going to walk around like that?
Spenny, on the other hand, is very proper about how he takes on the challenge and is sometimes annoyingly preachy about it.
Women don't pass gas. Of course, I know that's ridiculous. Of course they do. They're human beings. It's a biological function. But they do it very secretly. Sure, Kenny has, in the past, shown himself to be a boorish pig when it comes to passing gas. and I am somewhat, maybe a tad feminine.
I don't think the comedy or dynamic would nearly work as well if they were similar or even half-assed versions of the personalities they convey. They're able to build off of each other, and the back and forth between the two really works. The comedy stems from Kenny's willingness to torture and berate Spenny with his quick wit, and Spenny's paranoia and neuroticism as a result of it. There always seems to be subplots to the main competition involving people who understandably don't understand what's going on, but also used as strategies in their willingness to win. Whoever loses the competition must suffer humiliation chosen by the winner, and the humiliations vary from episode to episode.
The loser of this competition has to go into a movie lineup and give away the ending.
Spenny has to say every single thing I tell him to say.
Are you a good dancer?
I'm going to take out a booger, which I believe was one of the words you tried to make me laugh at. Booger. Boogers, not so funny now, are they?
Now, I will concede there are issues with the show. If you happen to stumble upon the wrong episode, it could very easily turn you off from the experience altogether. There are a few that just don't do it for me personally, comedically, but the ones that work are often hilarious and make up for the bad ones. What makes Kenny vs. Spenny really unique is not the slapstick form of the humor, but the improvisational nature of the jokes and actions that a scripted show would never have. It's not surprising to imagine that some jokes might be scripted and the show is not 100% authentic, but for the most part, I think the humor and reactions are genuine. There are a few conveniences to the plot of some episodes that seem almost far-fetched in their believability, but I believe it benefits the show as a whole because for the most part, they are still acting genuinely as themselves. In some cases though, if the structure of a certain competition falls flat or isn't working, they'll make up rules to speed up the process or spice up the episode in some ways to make sure it's never boring.
We are going to have a standoff. We are going to stand in the exact same place. First one to move from their original stance loses the competition and will suffer a humiliation.
It always prioritizes entertainment over anything. That's not to say there's not some trashiness to the show. There definitely is.
The competition this week is who can keep a dump in their pants the longest.
By the way, I want to see, I hate to say this, and this is not a fetish, and he's going to say it's something that I want to do. I want to see the poop come out of your ass.
But if you can get past that, the wittiness and constant heckling of each other is something you won't find in any other show. Much of my own personal humor has been derived from the show, and I find my brother and I quoting random Kenny and Spenny quotes to each other all this time later.
That is not me, okay? I do play guitar, but I don't write songs about my grandfather and having sex with my grandfather. That's crossing the line.
And while its popularity is evident in Canada, I'm not so sure how far out from there it spanned. After season 4, the creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, jumped on as producers, which nonetheless helped garner viewership. And makes sense because Kenny was a writing consultant on the show at one point. But even then, the show went through multiple cancellations until the big one in 2010. There have been attempts to revive the show with fan funding and calls to action, but it seems studios don't think there's enough interest for a revival, which sucks.
Is there anything stopping you or your producers from getting the show on Netflix? Would it just be up to Netflix at that point?
They don't want it.
They definitely don't want it?
Previous executives at Netflix don't want it.
Yeah, they've made that clear, I guess.
They've been pitched it, and that could change.
Yeah,
that could change at any time.
At this point, neither has had much success after Kenny vs. Spenny, but have taken to doing live shows together to keep the KVS brand alive. It's a shame we may never get new seasons, but the ones we have aren't too difficult to find. The DVDs are out of print and hard to find, but Kenny Hotz has gone back and forth with uploading the episodes on his YouTube channel. They can easily be found on other channels though, so if I've piqued your interest even a little bit, I recommend checking out these episodes to start.